This is me. My life is pretty great. It's not perfect, but I like it, and I'm content. But it wasn't always that way. In fact, it used to be pretty miserable until I discovered a way that I had been sabotaging myself, and I learned a lesson that changed my life forever. To understand that lesson, we gotta go back in time. This is me 10 years ago, not doing quite so hot. I was down in the dumps because nothing, and I mean nothing, that I tried to do worked, and I couldn't figure out why. I was working hard, I studied, I was already following Jesus as best I could, but none of that seemed to make a difference. Every music project, ministry idea, every time I tried dating, all of it went down like a helium balloon in 1937. Too soon. I failed at a lot of stuff, and it turns out that kind of thing gets demoralizing after a while.
Only language you speak is failure!
But here's where I learned a lesson that completely turned my life around. I was losing every game I played in life because I was playing by the wrong rules. And to show you what I mean, let's talk about dating and board games. Dating is one of many games you're gonna have to play in life, and if you wanna get married, you're gonna have to win at it. So imagine then that your mom, your youth pastor, your TV, whatever, sits you down and teaches you how to play the game of dating. And they teach you the rules of, we'll call it Monopoly. Do this, collect $200, say the wrong thing, you go to jail, so on. And you think, okay, I got it. I understand the rules of the game. Now it's time to go out and play this thing so I can get me a wife. Then you meet a girl and you're ready to play Monopoly. But she sits you down at a chessboard and starts playing the game by a totally different set of rules. But you don't know that. So you think you're playing the game the right way. But with every move you make, she gets less and less interested, and you lose every time you play. Now multiply this across every game of life and you'll see why this was such a problem for me. Work, school, social life, everything was a dead end because I was playing every one of those games by the wrong rules. And I had no idea. The lesson that God eventually taught me was this: you have way more influence over the results you get in your life than you think you do. So if you're losing the games you're playing, it's because you're making the wrong moves. And if you're making the wrong moves, it's because you misunderstand the game. Put another way, the results you get in life are, for the most part, the results of your choices, and your choices flow out of what you believe about the way life works. This is what the book of Proverbs calls knowledge and understanding. Knowledge is all the raw information that you take in, and understanding is the story that you place all of those facts into to give them context and meaning. So you need accurate information, but you also need your system of beliefs, the story that you believe about the way life works, to match the way that it actually does work. And what I learned the hard way is this isn't something that just naturally happens. In fact, there's a lot of forces out there that are better off if you don't understand how life works. So you have to go out and fight for that understanding if you want to succeed at anything you do. Because if you've been taught the wrong rules to the game, you can have all the right information and still make the wrong choices every time. Now, of course, when we spell it out like this, it looks incredibly obvious. But if it's so simple, why do so many of us still have huge trouble figuring life out? Well, a lot of the time, we don't see the actual rules of the game because we don't want them to be true.
I reject your reality and substitute my own.
I believed in the Monopoly rules of dating for decades, even though they never worked because it's more romantic that way. It also puts less demand on me to do the work, of becoming a man that adds tangible value to a woman's life. That takes years of consistent, hard work, and I don't want to do that. Not if there's a shortcut where I can just have faith or pretend that it's all just romance and feelings. It's easier to believe that she's just gonna fall head over Hillsong for a guy just because he looks decent and reads his Bible every day. So we don't learn the right rules of the game because we don't always want to believe them. But I went from having one of the driest phones of all time to having more matches than I know what to do with just by changing my approach. From one that only works in my daydreams to one that actually works with real people. Another problem is we don't double check the stuff we already think we know. We all have thoughts about how to play the different games of life already rolling around up in our noggin, and we've gotten some of them from things we've heard or stuff we've been taught or experienced, or a lot of times just our imagination. We imagine how the world works to fill in the gaps of what we don't know. And we don't always check to make sure that any of those things are actually right. Because a lot of the time, the things we think we know become a part of our identity. So if anything questions it, we feel like it's a personal attack. That's why people get upset with you when you disagree with them, and that's why we don't question our own ways of thinking. We also have a hard time seeing it because it means taking responsibility for the results that we get. For many people, when things don't work, they want want to point the responsibility anywhere else. We'll point at the system, other people, circumstances, and for Christians, we have a tendency to point the finger at God because it's supposed to be His will and His power making everything happen, right? But that's not how He handles us. And seeing the way the game is actually played was a kick in the cabbages for me because it meant I had to take ownership of my failures. But at the same time, that brought hope back into my life because now I wasn't a helpless victim anymore. I could learn, grow, do better, and get better results. And in another plot twist that nobody saw coming, this fixed my relationship with God, where it had been sort of tense and antagonistic before because I thought God either didn't like me or just didn't care about what I was going through. I could finally see Him as He actually is, a loving, caring dad who paid a heavy cost for my mistakes so that He could adopt me into His family. God had been trying to teach me and help me all along, but I hadn't been using the talents that He gave me in ways that actually worked with the games of life. Now, all this talk of mental schematics and games might sound terribly unspiritual, but it's actually not, because God is the foundation of the game. Without Him, there's a missing piece to all of your mental schematics of life. You'll run into a lot of problems, failures, heartaches, and emptiness because He's the one who made the game and He designed it for us to play it with Him. So between all the ways that God designed the game to work and all the ways that we've broken it, you'll need to understand the world as it actually is if you want to have any chance of succeeding in it. So I let God guide me through a process of relearning how the world works. And now I can actually do pretty okay at a thing or two. And life is actually pretty good now. Good, accurate belief systems don't guarantee success, but they at least get you to the starting line. Without them, you have no shot. So dive deep. Ask yourself tough questions about why you believe what you believe about the way life works. God can handle your questions anyway. But fair warning, if you want to build an accurate understanding of how life works, you'll need a solid foundation of wisdom and discernment. Without those, your maps of life will stay crooked and questioning them won't make it any better. So if you want to learn more, check out this video on what wisdom is and how you can develop it. That's all I got this time. Stay weird. Peace.